Hey there, happy day one to this week's Pastor's Devotionals. This week I am going to be focused on Matthew chapter 13. So you're not going to have to go searching all over the Bible this week. It's all in one chapter. I'm have just been thinking and reading some recently about the parables of Jesus. And the 13th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew is almost all parables. And so we're going to look at 6 different parables from that one chapter. Different parable each day. So just keep your bookmark. I got my bookmark right here. Matthew chapter 13 is going to stay there all week. Here we go. 13 verse 1. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Such great crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there, while the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, "Listen, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell on the path, and the birds came and ate them up. Other seeds fell on rocky ground where they did not have much soil, and they sprang up quickly, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen." This is a very popular parable, and just so you know, so parables are sort of metaphorical stories, allegory, symbolism. They're ways in which Jesus spoke. So you talk about subject A, but you're making a point about subject B. So Jesus is talking about a sower, a man who's planting seeds, but that's not really what he's trying to make a point about. He's trying to make some kind of point about God and who God is, or who we are, some sort of religious point, some teaching of faith. So through the years, you probably heard, if you've been around the church at all, lots of sermons and Bible studies and that sort of thing about this parable. And let me just point out 2 of the ways that it's often used. It's often used to think about the kind of soil we are. What kind of soil are you? Are you the soil that is filled with the thorns, or the rocky stuff, and filled with a kind of negative, so that the things of God can't take root in you? Are you the soil that is shallow in your face, so that the seed of God can't take root in you? Are you the good soil that allows the fruits of God to take root deep in you? And so that's one way that the parable is often used. I find it helpful from time to time to sort of do an inspection of my life and to say, what kind of soil am I right now? Am I shallow and just sort of going about my faith and not really thinking about it? Am I filled with something? I mean, some sort of anger or hurt or grief or something that just keeps the goodness of God from sinking in deeper? What kind of soil am I? I find that to be a helpful question from time to time. The other thing that I truly love about this parable is that I think it talks about the ways in which God's grace works in the world. You see, the sower, if the seed was really this valuable, or I don't know if the seed was not valuable, or if the sower didn't know what he or she was doing. Because if the seed was really valuable, or the sower knew what he or she were doing, wouldn't they have thrown all of the seed into the good soil? Why would they be throwing seed onto the path in the first place? Why would they be throwing seed onto the rocky ground? You can see that it's rocky. Don't put seed there. Why would they be throwing seed onto the ground that's already filled with weeds? You can see the weeds there. You know not to throw it there. It's not as if they threw the seed onto the rocky path and then suddenly figured out it was rocky. No, they could have seen it. And so what's going on here? Is the seed not valuable? Does the sower not know what he or she is doing? Or is this parable about the ways in which God's grace is given to all of creation? That God is like that sower, just liberally throwing out grace everywhere, everywhere. That everyone gets it, whether you're the weeds or the rocks or the shallow person of faith, you get the grace. It's given to you. Now, what you do with it, that's your choice. But what God does with it is God gives it out constantly. I mean, there's other parables like this. The parable of the prodigal son. God gives it out, right? The parable of, the landowner who's paying the people different wages and pays the same people, agrees at 9 a.m. to pay a certain wage. And the people who start working at 3 p.m. and only work for a couple hours, they get the same wage. And there's questions about that. And the owner says, isn't it mine to give? And can I give as much as I want? That God gives liberally. What we do with it? Well, that's our choice. So 2 questions on this day. What kind of soil are you? Question number 2, what is the grace that God's trying to give you today? And to question number 2, you are incorrect if you are ever assuming that God is not giving you grace today. Because as the parable would suggest, God gives liberally to everyone always. Question 1, what kind of soil are you today? Question 2, what is it that God is trying to give you in the way of grace on this day? God bless. Have a great day.